didn't.
Right. Representative Hudson, is it true that 90% of the individuals charged, regardless of what your colleague on the panel just said with his facts and figures, 90% of the individuals charged or indicted with the $250 million Feeding Our Future COVID fraud are of Somali descent?
I believe that to be correct.
Are you aware that in a 2021 video, Mr. Ellison promised that he would obstruct his own agencies in their investigation of Somali fraud?
I am very much aware of that.
It's no wonder that criminals in the Somali community felt they were free to steal taxpayer dollars. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Marion. Do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
Walz and Ellison
Tom Emmer didn't just question Tim Walz. He torched him. In a jaw-dropping hearing, Emmer accused Walz of knowing about billions in fraud, threatening whistleblowers, and letting it all happen while the media stayed silent. He looked witnesses straight in the eye and asked a question Democrats don't want answered. Did Walz know, or didn't he? Hit like, subscribe to 50 Patriots, grab a seat, settle in, and let's dive right into it.
Chair now recognizes Majority Whip from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer.
Thank you, Chairman Comer, for holding this important hearing. As I said on Monday, good riddance to Governor Walz, but he cannot escape accountability for the estimated $9 billion in fraud. How did this happen? And where the hell has the Twin Cities media been? The Star Tribune is complicit. They have had this story for years, if you just heard, and they've refused to report anything on it. In fact, they continue to try and cover up. Our Minnesota Republican colleagues have demanded answers and accountability for years, but have seen nothing from Walz, his administration, our Democrat colleagues like Tina Smith, Amy Klobuchar, Ilhan Omar, and Angie Craig, or the worthless Star Tribune. Thank God for President Donald J. Trump for finally bringing attention to this issue. Representative Rarick, I'm going to begin with you. You've been working on this issue for years. You've spoken to the whistleblowers personally. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You have an understanding that 1,000 whistleblowers running an account on X have come forward to expose fraud in Minnesota state agencies, and they have been entirely ignored by Tim Walz and have even been retaliated against. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Even this morning, I got another message.
Well, in your experience, are their claims credible or are they politically motivated against Walz?
They are completely credible, not politically motivated.
In fact, many of these are Walz administration employees, correct?
They are actually Democrats as well.
Can you quickly give us one example of the retaliation these folks have been facing?
Yes, I can. In my opening statement, I mentioned that the most severe ones was that they would be fired with cause, so they couldn't have unemployment insurance, that they would be blacklisted from all state agencies, and I bet that it's also Hennepin County and Ramsey County, as you know, those are Democrat-run, and much, much more.
Based on what you've learned, Representative, over the last several years, do you have any doubt that Governor Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
He absolutely knew that it was occurring.
Thank you. The Housing Stability Services Program was estimated to cost about $2.6 million per year, but before it was shut down last October, it was on track to run about $122 million in 2025. In fact, I think they sucked $161 million out of it from the point it started in 2020 until it was finally shut down. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, and Joe Thompson believes that 90% of that was fraud.
Yeah. The Quality Leering Center, as uncovered by Nick Shirley, received almost $10 million in funding. Is that accurate?
I believe it is.
There are more than 80 autism centers in Minnesota under investigation. Is that true?
I believe it is, yes.
It's clear that someone is criminally complicit. You can't just let this amount of money get out of your administration over a period of 7 years without knowing. There was a hearing in the state regarding the fraudulent housing stabilization program, but before that hearing, Governor Walz fired the official who was slated to testify so that they could not testify and expose what was happening under Governor Walz's watch. Has Governor Walz or Attorney General Ellison fired anyone else to your knowledge, Representative? Not
to my knowledge, and that was Eric Rumdahl, and his administration believes that he he was not fired, but I say he was fired because it was too convenient.
Right. Representative Hudson, is it true that 90% of the individuals charged, regardless of what your colleague on the panel just said with his facts and figures, 90% of the individuals charged or indicted with the $250 million Feeding Our Future COVID fraud are of Somali descent?
I believe that to be correct.
Are you aware that in a 2021 video, Mr. Ellison promised that he would obstruct his own agencies in their investigation of Somali fraud?
I am very much aware of that.
It's no wonder that criminals in the Somali community felt they were free to steal taxpayer dollars. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Marion. Do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
Walz and Ellison were protecting fraudsters instead of investigating them, and it was purposeful. And it's no coincidence that this is occurring largely in the Somali community. Walz made a sanctuary state, Minnesota, a sanctuary state. He gave free health care, free college, and free licenses to illegals. And Walz looked the other way when Somali immigrants were stealing. Representative Robbins, do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
So all three of you have no doubt in your minds that Tim Walz knew about the $9 billion of fraud during his tenure as governor and did nothing about it. It looks like my time is about to expire, and I do want to say to all of you, on behalf of Minnesota, thank you for being here, and justice will be served. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The chair recognizes Minnesota Majority Whip Tom Emmer, and right out of the gate, he goes nuclear. Emmer says good riddance to Governor Tim Walz, but makes it clear Walz cannot escape accountability for what he calls an estimated $9 billion in fraud. Emmer demands to know how it happened and slams the Twin Cities media, accusing outlets like the Star Tribune of sitting on the story for years and actively covering it up. Emmer points out that Minnesota Republicans have demanded answers for years and got absolutely nothing from Walz, his administration, or Democrat allies like Tina Smith, Amy Klobuchar, Ilhan Omar, and Angie Craig. Then he delivers a line that changes everything, thanking President Donald J. Trump for finally forcing national attention onto the scandal. Emmer questions a state representative who confirms they personally spoke with whistleblowers, nearly 1,000 of them, many of whom were ignored or outright retaliated against by the Walz administration. These weren't Republicans either. Many were Democrats and state employees themselves. The retaliation is chilling. Fired with cause so they couldn't collect unemployment, blacklisted from state agencies, careers destroyed for telling the truth. Then the money trail comes out. A housing program supposed to cost a couple million per year explodes into over $100 million, tens of millions siphoned off. Another learning center pulls in nearly $10 million. Over 80 autism centers under investigation. Emmer says plainly, you don't lose this kind of money without knowing. The bombshell moment hits when Emmer reveals a key official was fired right before testifying at a fraud hearing, silencing them before they could expose what happened under Walz's watch. Finally, Emmer asks every witness the same question. Did Tim Walz know about the fraud while it was happening? Every single one answers the same way. Yes. No hesitation. No doubt. Emmer closes by thanking the witnesses and promising accountability is coming. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video. Subscribe to 50 Patriots. Share this with friends who follow political hearings. And see you in the next one.